When I went into coaching, I was focused on changing what to do. And now I can see that it's about changing how to be. That shift in focus to my own energy versus trying to fix things and do things. I think that's mainly what I didn't even know was an option before coaching.
Welcome to Modern Psychedelics, where we explore the transformations made possible through intentional engagement with psychedelics. This podcast will help you integrate high consciousness living into the everyday and deepen the work ignited by altered states. You can expect balanced and grounded conversations around therapeutic, ceremonial, and recreational containers. My name is Lana Pribic, your host and guide. I am a 3-time certified professional life coach, and I work with people who want to integrate higher levels of consciousness into their daily lives so they can feel more peace, fulfillment, and connection. After all, our time here on Earth is so brief, so let's make sure we're really living. The song you hear is called Lost Horizon by Peace Sign. All right, let's journey. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Journey series. This is the 3rd episode in the series where I actually interview past coaching clients of mine to share their very raw, very vulnerable, very real, very human, very down to earth journeys of transformation. I worked with Nadya about a year ago, and wow, it was amazing to drop back in with her, hear what she's been up to, and also just to observe the insane level of integration that she has done since we worked together. I can see that she is truly living her life in alignment with all of the things that we spoke about and unpacked during coaching. So Nadya is only in her mid-20s, which honestly, you wouldn't be able to believe. I just found this out myself, but the level of wisdom and her willingness to get so real with herself at such a young age, I don't know. I find it very impressive because I know when I was 25, I was definitely not doing this work. And I can only imagine where my life would have been in my late 20s and early 30s if I had been doing this work earlier. But like I said, she just has so much wisdom to share. So we did a round of coaching and she actually microdosed as well while we did the coaching. I think the way I would summarize her transformation is just like this really beautiful and profound opening to life, to herself, and to the journey of transformation. She talks about how she was completely drained and how she, quote unquote, didn't have her life together when she reached out to me. And yeah, it's hard to believe that that is the same person who is being interviewed in this episode. So she shares very vulnerably a lot of personal details of what it took for her to really start taking ownership of her life. And she shares so much with us about how in just a few months, with the combination of coaching and microdosing, she was able to start living life from the present moment, living through her authentic self, how she was able to improve her relationships with her family, with her husband, through applying things like boundaries and changing the way that she communicates through conflict. She talks about how she was able to find grace for herself and love for herself as a new mother and release the fear of judgment and self-judgment. We also talked about how presence in the moment has become a sort of spiritual path or a spiritual way for her. She had been forced to follow a specific religion in her upbringing. And we also talk about how the transition into motherhood really jarred Nadya and led her to seek out coaching in the first place. In this episode, you will hear us talk a lot about energy, and that is because I am a core energy coach working with the 7 levels of energy or consciousness. Now, you don't have to know all the details about that in order to enjoy this conversation, but one thing I do want you to know is that we make mention of catabolic energy. So there are 2 types of energy that we are experiencing at any given time. Catabolic energy, which you will hear a reference to in this conversation, is a destructive, tearing down force. It's associated with high levels of judgment, fear, guilt, doubt, shame, hopelessness, powerlessness, and it really holds us back in life. And a lot of the coaching process with me deals with bringing awareness to unpacking and transforming this catabolic energy. Now, the other type of energy that we may be experiencing is anabolic energy. Anabolic energy is constructive, and it's a building up force. It's very productive. It's healing, and it's associated with a lack of judgment, openness, creativity, unconditional love, and things that really help us move forward and see ourselves as the observer, the participant, and the creator of our lives. So don't worry when we talk about energy, because we are talking about it in a really, really grounded and human way. And anyone who's interested in learning more about energy, look out for an episode that I'm going to be putting out very, very soon that goes over the 7 levels of energy or consciousness that we talk about. So please enjoy this episode and share it with a friend who may be desiring a transformation similar to Nadya. I absolutely love doing these journey episodes with you guys because I can only share so much about my own journey, and working with clients one-on-one, I spend, 3 to 6 months working really intimately with people, facilitating their transformation, facilitating these deep shifts in belief systems that allow people to become very empowered and accountable to their own lives. So it just feels natural for me to share their stories with you guys. So please enjoy this one, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. And if you would like to give me a thank you or help me grow the show, I would really appreciate if you would leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcast. It really, really helps and supports the show. All right, let's get into this episode with Nadya. Footwear has always been a huge issue for me. The problem is I want to look cute, but I'm also so over those fashion shoes that make my feet hurt and my bunions worse. Earth Runners have solved all of my soul's problems. Their earthing sandals are not only comfortable, not only mimic barefoot living, but also look pretty damn cute with all my outfits. I recently got a pair for my 6 weeks in Costa Rica, and I am not kidding you guys. I did not take these shoes off. They were the only footwear that I brought with me other than my hiking boots, but honestly, I could have left those hiking boots at home. My feet feel like they're finally starting to heal after all of the damage I've put them through over the years. I can walk for long distances and my feet just don't hurt like they used to. I am obsessed. I have found my shoe for life. Made with Vibram outsoles for a responsive, sure-footed experience, these smart sandals are appropriate for hiking, long-distance running, not that I do any of that, water adventures, festivaling, I definitely do that, and integrating with the earth. So the stainless steel copper earthing system grounds you to the Earth's electromagnetic frequencies, which has a number of health benefits. You guys can research this: reducing inflammation, connecting to the circadian rhythm, better sleep, pain reduction, and some other stuff. The ultimate integration for me is living in alignment with the earth. And I love any products that help me do that. Free your feet and rewild your soul with Earth Runners. Just go and get a pair for the summer season and you will thank me later. I'm currently sporting the Circadian Adventure model and I'm about to go grab another pair because I'm that obsessed. Visit earthrunners.com and use Lana, Lana, at checkout for 10% off. That's earthrunners.com and Lana at checkout for 10% off. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Journey series. This is the 3rd episode in the series, and this is a series where I interview some of my past coaching clients that I've worked with to share their journeys of growth and transformation because they're so inspiring and I feel selfish keeping them to myself. So today I have the wonderful and very inspiring Nadya. Welcome to the show, Nadya.
Hi, thank you.
And you were just saying that you love listening to the show and that you're so excited to be on today.
Yeah, I've been listening since I think 2021.
Wow, you're an OG then.
I've been with you for a while.
Yeah, I know our DMs on Instagram go pretty far back. So yeah, thank you for that. And we worked together in my one-on-one coaching program in 2023, about a year ago, from April to July. And I just have to say, you were so beautiful to work with, and your transformation was just, wow, so wonderful to witness. And you really embraced such a high level of consciousness and living at the highest level of energy and with such an open heart. And I'm especially reminded about how you were able to transform some of your relationships and really start showing up in unconditional love rather than conditional love. And I remember your self-confidence increased and your trust in yourself and your journey and your spirituality increased so much. So I'm so excited to share a little bit more about that journey with our listeners today. So before we dive into the details, please introduce yourself to the audience and include anything that you feel would help listeners understand you, anything from your cultural background, your upbringing, anything you'd like.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Nadya. I'm 25. I'm a mom to a 2-year-old. So I was born in Massachusetts to two teen parents. So my mom was actually only 18 when she had me, and my dad was, I think, 19. So I grew up there until I think I was about 1, and then I moved to the South Bronx with my dad's family. So that was a pretty big shift. Of course, I was really little, but I still remember a lot of it. And it was a 1-bedroom apartment, and it was me, my mom, 2 of my aunts, and my grandma. I remember me and my mom used to have a bed in the kitchen. It was like a huge kitchen, and we had half of it like a bedroom, the other half a kitchen. My aunt had a bed in the hallway. There was a bed in the living room, 2 beds in the bedroom. So it was a lot of us. When I lived there until I was about, I think, 4. And my mom at the time, since being so young, I think if I was 4, she was probably about 22. And at that time, her and my dad split up. She was having a pretty hard time raising me. So then I actually went back to Massachusetts to live with my grandmother. And that was another huge shift because my grandma lives in a really small town in the mountains. I think there's probably maybe 1,000 people in the town. So it was like going from New York City in the Bronx to the town is called Coleraine. It was different. And so I started school there. Yeah, I really liked growing up there because there was so much nature around me and all my friends lived pretty close. So we were always outside. There was always stuff to do. Like we would go skiing, sledding, a lot of sport. I had a pretty good childhood living there. And of course, I was living with my grandmother too. So she spoiled me making cookies all the time. Yeah, just like still being a grandma. When I was 14, I went back to live with my mom, and this time moved back to New York City, but it was in Queens. So that's where I spent the rest of my youth. Another big part of my childhood that's a little bit hard to talk about, but pretty relevant, is that my dad was in jail for a lot of it. So I think the first time he went to jail was 4, and he got out 4 years later, and then went back in, and then got out and went back in, and he's out now and has been out since I was 12. But because of that, it was really hard for us to build a relationship. The times that I would see him growing up it was hard to connect in a setting like that. If you can imagine going into a prison as a kid and like seeing everybody in these uniforms and really serious, then when we finally go through all these procedures, like hours of security checks, waiting, paperwork, and then we finally get in and we can't even we could give hugs, but we have to sit so far apart and you can't really do anything. You can talk and it's only like an hour. And the jail was like 7 hours from us, so it was a pretty far drive. So I would say that the combination of having teenage parents and then one of them being incarcerated, it just really complicated my life in a lot of ways that I thought would go away when I became an adult, but they actually didn't. I think I left off when I moved back to New York when I was 14, and I went to high school there and I went to college there, and I graduated with my bachelor's in psychology because that's always been something I'm really interested in. I got a degree in forensic psychology, and at the age of 21 I got married. I moved to California, to San Diego County, and I had a lot of fun there. We spent 2 years living there. Then we had my son Xavier. I was 23 at the time, and after that I moved back to Massachusetts, and now I'm living in Connecticut. So I've been moving around a lot.
Yeah, you've been around a lot of different places and homes, and I can only imagine the impact that's had on your journey.
Yeah, I'm like dying for some stability.
Yeah. Where were you at when you reached out to me and you were seeking out coaching? Can you tell us a little bit about where you were at and what you were noticing in your life that you wanted to be different, but you couldn't quite get there on your own?
I reached out to you, I think we said it was March of last year. I remember the night I submit the application because I was just going back and forth all night. I was like, I really have been wanting to do this. And there's a part of me that's, maybe we should just wait a little bit. And then I was like, why? But leading up to that, like I said, I had Xavier in December of 2022. And that was another huge change for me. I know there's some other mom listeners out there, and I know that they know from being you to being a mom is a huge, just a whole new world. And I had been dealing with a lot of postpartum depression too. I would say when I reached out to you, I would say I was at the tail end of it. It was lingering a little bit, its effects. But during the year prior to that, it was getting pretty bad. And that's actually why I left California, was to just go back home and just spend some time with my family and get a little bit of help. And during that time, I realized that I hit this rock bottom, that I just felt like I had nothing, and the things that I were doing wasn't working. And I remember being in the room with my son, and he was not even a year yet. And I just felt so bad. So I was like, how am I going to provide for you and give you a good life if I don't have this together right now? So that kind of sparked this inspiration inside me to start changing and doing things more intentionally and just living a life that I want to live. And so, yeah, I had been just getting started on this journey. And I think it was probably a couple months past. And that's when I decided that I wanted to do life coaching, because it's something that had been on my radar for about the last year. And so I thought that was just a perfect time to start. And I was going into it, I was hoping that it would help me set a fresh foundation for my life moving forward.
Yeah, you mentioned that you felt like you didn't have it together. What did you feel like you didn't have together at the time?
Everything. Yeah, I just felt like I had nothing, physically and mentally. I was just drained. I was so tired and just so weighed down.
So how did you know it was coaching that you wanted to try out and not something else?
I've tried therapy before. When I was in college, they had a free counseling program. So I did that for a year, and it helped me a lot at the time. It helped me deal with a lot of the environments that I was living in and the relationships that I was having. It helped with those type of things that were happening right now, but I didn't know coaching was a thing. So when I did hear about you talk about it, and just listening to this podcast, listening to who you are, it sounded like that could take it to just another level.
So it sounds like it was something that was a bit of an intuitive, instinctual feeling that this was what you wanted to go towards.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like there was much logic involved. So I remember when we were working together, you often said, wow, this is so different than I expected. This is so different than what I thought it would be like, which happens a lot of times when I'm working with clients one-on-one. What was it about coaching that really surprised you and that you found, that you just found surprising?
This is the whole process. It really did. I remember it catching me way off guard. And I was just looking through my journal a couple of days ago. And one of the things that stuck out to me that I wrote down, when I went into coaching, I was focused on changing what to do. And now I can see that it's about changing how to be. That shift in focus to my own energy versus trying to fix things and do things. I think that's mainly what I didn't even know was an option before coaching.
Yeah, I love that you caught on to that really early, because some traditional coaching is all about taking action and doing the things. With core energy coaching, which is what we did together, it's more about aligning with who you truly are, your true self, your true state of being. And then from that place, when that energetic shift happens, then we worry about the doing, and the doing kind of just falls into the place and the actions just fall into place. But first, we really want to get to the core of who we are and what we want. And as you learned, coaching is such an amazing place to get really real with yourself and discover that.
Like you said, if you try to approach it with action first, it just feels so forceful. I have to do this right now. I have to think of a way to fix this, but you just can't. Or sometimes you can, but it's still going to take a lot more out of you than sitting into yourself and focusing on being you. And yeah, it does come more naturally.
Yeah, that's exactly right. When we're really connected to who we are and what we want, things just flow and are easy, and we're not coming from force. And of course, we can get things done by force from that catabolic energy that we talked about, but the long-term results are not sustainable, and it really is not very fulfilling. I think that's a really great headline of what the coaching experience can be like. And because this is a podcast called Modern Psychedelics, I have to ask you, what is your practice with medicine, with psychedelics? I know we did a round of microdosing when we were coaching together, but yeah, do you want to share a little bit about that?
My first experience with psychedelics was the day after I moved to California. I think that I left New York just completely just ready to just start a whole new life. So I got there and we already had an apartment set up. We didn't even unpack yet. And I remember I had a job interview during the day. And then that night, my husband was like, okay, we're going to do this. And we had a 2-bedroom apartment. So we set up one of the bedrooms with a lot of posters and light and a record player, music. And then I took 1 tab of acid and I was a little nervous. And I think he was really nervous too. And he's like, are you okay? Are you feeling anything yet? And I remember just like, no, not yet, until I looked at the rug, and that rug was like, I'm like pulsing to the beat of the music. I was like, wow. And so that was just a really fun introduction. I didn't have any intention going into it because I just didn't really know like anything about it. But at the same time, after that, I remember waking up the next morning like with this really refreshed feeling, and my head felt so clear. And I remember just the thing that stood out to me the most from that first trip was like that there's just so much more to life than I ever thought. And that, I started to fall like really in love with the trees after that, because they would bring me back to that place in a way. And during that time, it was just me and him living in the apartment together. And we were 21 at the time. We both had our jobs, but then on the weekends, sometimes we would do little trips in we called it our tea room. So I would say we did like maybe 4 throughout the next year. And then, the following year, I got pregnant with my son. But before that, I had tried psilocybin mushrooms. That was a really interesting experience too. It was for my birthday one year. We got an Airbnb in San Diego, and it wasn't an easy experience. And it just opened my eyes to that too, that psychedelics are fun, but they're not just fun. So that's when I learned about that. But I was still interested because I did get a lot of out of that experience, but it was really rough, but I was really grateful for the experience still. So then I got interested in microdosing because as a mom, I don't feel comfortable yet to go on these full trips because I feel like I need to be able to be like present with my son whenever, even if we're not physically together. Like I still don't feel comfortable yet like going off somewhere. So that's when I started to get interested in microdosing, because I was like craving that feeling of being refreshed and just more open and learning new things. So the first time I ever tried microdosing was when we were coaching together.
Yeah, and how did you find that the coaching plus microdosing worked for you together?
Amazing. I was just thinking about that because I've been microdosing again during the last month, and it's still an amazing experience. But the combination of microdosing and coaching just enhances the experience of both in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's so well said. And when we say we're doing microdosing and coaching at the same time, we're not doing like microdosing coaching. So it's not like you show up to a session and we're talking about you microdosing and your doses and things like that. You're doing your microdosing protocol, and sure, we might touch on it a little bit, but what we're really doing in the session is going deep into that state of being, that state of who you truly are, and aligning your life with that. So the microdosing is really able to open you up a little bit more, and then also give you the energy, the motivation, the excitement to really follow through with what we talk about in coaching.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and one of the first things that we worked on, if you remember, was empowering your relationship with time. And you really had this intention to work on living in the moment and being more present in your life before we started working together. Can you tell us a little bit about why that was important for you to work on and what your relationship with that is like now compared to before?
I was just trying to think what was pushing me to want to work on that, and I can't remember.
So I have some notes here. You had this feeling that you didn't have enough time in the day to do everything that you wanted to do, and that you had to have everything perfectly planned out. There was this sense of mom guilt, making sure that you kind of have to know everything that's going on and that everything's planned out so that you don't make a mistake and that you're doing things the right way. It's hard to remember sometimes how we were when we're not like that anymore. Is that ringing a bell?
And I remember that part. I remember feeling so overwhelmed being a mom. And it's just a huge shift because especially when your baby is young, you have to put yourself aside a lot. And of course, people tell you like, oh, you need to take care of yourself. You need to take care of yourself. But sometimes it would just feel like, when do you want me to take care of myself? I can't even shower. I can shower, but I can't even shower without my son. Or some days I feel like I couldn't have time to eat. And I guess I learned through coaching that it wasn't that I didn't have time time, because I remember us talking and you say it's true, we all have the same 24 hours in a day, but it's just like, how do we use them? And so that really helped me.
Yeah, and I remember you had this insight around just rooting down into the present moment and remembering that the only time that is real is now, and the only time that we can take action is now, and that staying in the present moment is therefore the most powerful place that we can be and where we can have the most impact. How have these insights changed how you spend your time and how you even just relate to managing your time as a mom?
They changed everything for me. It gives me that feeling of relief, like I can breathe, I have time, it's okay. There's time for the things that I want to do, it's okay. And spending more time in the present makes me feel like I have even more time, because when I spend time in the present, it feels like time slows down. That's been like my life hack lately. If I start to feel like I'm rushing through my day, or I'm like worried that there's not enough time, I know that it's time for me to come back.
Oh, that's amazing to hear that you've been able to maintain your connection to these insights, because they are really profound. Spiritual teachers of all types teach about the power of the present moment. Can you talk to us a little bit about your spiritual path and your spirituality? Because I remember that being present piece was huge for your sense of spirituality.
Yeah, that was definitely like a breakthrough for me. When I moved back in with my mom, a couple of years before that, she started going to a church, like a Christian church, but I didn't grow up in that religion, but said she had converted when I moved in with her. Then I went to a Christian school, and that was really the only form of spirituality that I knew, and of course was taught that anything outside of that is not welcome, because that's wrong. So for, I would say like 6 years, that was my only form of spirituality. No, actually longer than that, like 14 to 22, I would say. And then at first I did really like going to church. It gave me that feeling of a full heart, which is really important for me. But there was a lot of contradictions that I would hear, and there was just a lot of parts about going and a lot of things I experienced that didn't really feel too aligned with who I am. But I was still like staying in the belief out of fear, because I was afraid to go to hell. So I would still not partake in my life fully because of this belief that I was holding. Of course, doing psychedelics didn't align with that belief, but I did it anyways. But I think that also helped me to start releasing this fear and realize that it's okay if I want to explore who I am and what my beliefs are. And so that's when around like 22, I just began like being more open, but I still hadn't completely let go of the fear either. And it was around the time that I hit that rock bottom that I was just talking about before we started coaching, that I was really able to release that, because after I hit that rock bottom, after that night in that room, and I just was ready to start changing everything, I realized that I had to let go of that fear, because it was like, one, I either had to step into that or step out, because staying right there, like staying there out of fear, it wasn't serving me at all, and it was actually hurting me. But I knew that I still needed to seek some sort of spiritual connection, because I know that's important to me. And yeah, when we were talking that one day, and you brought my attention to the point that now is the only time, and if we're looking for this spiritual connection, we have to come here to the now. That helped me so much, because it's not like it was teaching me something specific, but it was helping me get to a place where I can explore it on my own. And so that's going to be with me forever. And that feels really good too.
Yeah, I can see that by the smile on your face, that just resonates, right? Did you know that your problems don't come from the situations or circumstances themselves? Your problems come from how you approach them. More specifically, your problems come from the level of consciousness that you approach them with. It's pretty simple. Here's how it works. Anytime something happens to us, we can approach the situation from various levels of consciousness. You can come from a low level of consciousness that perpetuates the problem and keeps you stuck, drained, hopeless, and under stress. Or you can come from a high level of consciousness that allows you to move forward, because you can more easily tap into creative solutions and access your intuition. The good news is that at any given time, you can choose how you show up and therefore have a massive impact on how your life unfolds. The trick is to be aware of all of the options available to you, which most of us aren't, which is why most people feel stuck and unable to move forward. But that job you hate, your codependent relationship, or the numbing anxiety of not knowing your purpose in life can be the exact thing that moves you forward and gives you clarity, as long as you're approaching it from a high level of consciousness. In my coaching program, I will help you become hyper aware of your current approach and help you shift to higher levels of consciousness. By addressing blockages keeping you stuck, which are often subconscious, we unlock flow, acceptance, peace, joy, all of those things we want more of in life. And this is not woo-woo. I am using a research-validated coaching method that's benefited thousands and has been studied and developed over 25 years plus. Whether you're corporate or spiritual or both, this is an approach that offers practical integration into everyday life. And it happens to pair just brilliantly with psychedelic work. High consciousness living is achievable daily, not just during psychedelic experiences. Psychedelics illuminate the path, but it's our job to walk it every day. My coaching program will provide you with a grounded and operational way to integrate high consciousness into your daily life. I am currently onboarding new souls into my practice. So if you would like to learn more about the program, just visit modernpsychedelics.net/coaching. I've linked that for you in the show notes. Or if you are ready to apply and get on a call with me to see if this program is right for you, just go to modernpsychedelics.net/apply. That's modernpsychedelics.net/apply. All right. I can't wait to hear from you. Let's get back to the episode. Speaking of fears are something that we spend a lot of time looking at in the coaching space, right? We look at our fears, we look at how they might not be true, how they might not be serving us, how they might be holding us back, and we look for a different story that feels more empowering to release those fears. What are some of the fears that you remember working through during coaching?
The fear of judgment, for sure. Yeah, that was probably the biggest one.
Tell us more about that, because there was some self-judgment, right? Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I think that was something we spoke about pretty early on too, because it was invasive to my life. It feels like this fear of judgment and fear of judgment from others and so much judgment coming from myself. Being able to change the belief that what others think about me is actually a reflection of them and vice versa. Holding on to that belief has helped me reduce my judgments a lot. And by reducing my judgments, I feel so much more free in this life because I feel like I can do whatever I want. I can be whoever I want and I don't have to worry. I don't have to carry that worry anymore.
So you've integrated this new belief system that what others think of me is more a reflection of them than it is of me. And what I think of others is more of a reflection of me than it is of them, right? Kind of seeing the world through our own lens and our own projections is really empowering. You've been able to integrate that through coaching these days. If and when any judgment towards yourself or others comes up, how do you deal with that using those tools?
When I catch myself judging others, I start to feel personally offended. I'm like, oh, you think that about yourself? And it's good because it holds me accountable so that I'm not judging other people. Because I actually want to be a life coach too. And I feel like letting go of this judgment that's a huge part. You can't do this type of work and judge people. So that has held me accountable to stop judging others as much. And when I do, just become more aware of it. And also then turn it back on myself and be like, why do we feel like that? It's hard to tell when people are judging you for sure. But a lot of times I catch myself worrying. And I still have this worry. It's more of an anxious feeling maybe when I'm out in a public space or somewhere I feel like I'm going to get more attention than I want. But it's a lot easier to move through because I'm not so focused on what their judgments mean. Now I'm just focused on moving that feeling out of my body because I understand I can't stop myself from worrying, but I don't have to let it determine how I'm going to act or how I'm going to feel.
That's incredible. And anyone who wants to become a life coach, it's so important to go through life coaching yourself so that you can actually understand the power of this work and to do the work yourself, because we can only take our clients as far and as deep as we have gone ourselves. And Deanne Adamson does such a good job of talking about this in the episode I did with her. I think it's episode 82, where she talks about that for anyone out there who's also interested, like Nadya, in becoming a coach. And so with this release of judgment and self-judgment, and of course we all have judgments. We all have judgments. All of us, all the time, no matter how much work we've done. It's just something that we're going to continue to face. But hopefully over time, the amount of time that we spend in judgment and the amount of time that we are judging decreases with this work. So as you are more aware of your own judgments towards yourself and others, and as you are taking your power back when you are judging and turning inwards and using it as an opportunity to reflect on yourself and to do work on yourself, how has your life changed as a result? Like, what's different? Why even bother working on being less judgmental?
Yeah, you should definitely bother on working on being less judgmental. It is a lot too, because then I think if you're judging a lot of people, I think that you feel like a lot of people are judging you just as a response. And if you're caring about what people think of you, then it just stops you from pursuing a lot of the things that you really want to pursue, the things that are gonna fulfill your life. At least that's the case for me, because like I'm really interested now, especially in psychedelic life coaching, and it feels really exciting for me to even know that's a possibility and explore that. But before, I think that fear of judgment, if I maybe heard of the opportunity last year before releasing this fear of judgment, I could have just shut that out. No, that's not for me.
Yeah, in terms of energy, right? Judgment is very catabolic. So for people listening, catabolic energy is destructive and draining. And when we are in judgment, we are experiencing catabolic energy. When we are experiencing that, it's really hard for us to think creatively, solve problems, see solutions, tap into love, tap into acceptance, tap into peace. Judgment is something that drains our energy, and it keeps us from really going out into the world and doing what we want to do. Would you agree? Have you seen that to be true in your own life?
Yeah, I definitely agree that judgment does bring a lot of that catabolic energy in, and it is really hard to be you when you're experiencing that catabolic energy.
Yeah. So you've done such a great job of releasing the judgment and leaning into your authenticity. What did you learn about who you truly are, who you authentically are throughout the coaching process?
Because of my upbringing, because I didn't live with my parents, because I was moving around. I didn't even touch into all the places that we moved in between there. So having to live with people who are not your parents and be in other people's houses a lot, I noticed that it made me feel like I had to be really quiet, really good, well behaved, because there's just not that comfortability. So that's how I spend a lot of time going through my life, as the quiet, good girl who does things that she's supposed to do and doesn't disrupt anything or make anybody upset. Yeah, I learned that's not really who I am. I have my own beliefs. I have my own opinions that don't always match what other people think. And I have a way of going about my life that isn't probably what people think I should be doing. But I don't really feel bad about that anymore. And I feel like more free to explore that and more open to whatever it looks like.
Speaking of other people, your relationships with, first of all, yourself, but also with your husband, your family. I think it really evolved in such a beautiful way during those months that I was witnessing your process. Just looking back, right? How were you standing in your own way of having the relationships that you really desired? What were some of those blocks in your way?
Definitely setting boundaries with people was a huge block, because my lack of ability to set boundaries, it gave me this built-up resentment towards a lot of people, because people would be crossing my boundaries, but at the end of the day, that's on me to set those boundaries. So I'd find myself isolating because I'm mad at them and just all tense, but it's because I wasn't voicing my needs. And once I started really applying that and started setting boundaries and just doing it in the moment when things were happening, and also realizing, okay, I'm not actually okay with the way that you're treating me right now or the way that things are going. So starting to address those has helped me develop really just a lot more genuine relationships with my family, with my husband. Since they're more genuine, they can go a lot deeper.
And that's also because you're more genuine with yourself. You're more in tune with who you genuinely are, and you can show up in that way and actually give people an opportunity to respond to you, not this ego shell of you that was created by society and your upbringing and parents or whatever. It's this is who I truly am. And when we really show up as who we truly are in relationships, that changes relationships, right? For better or for worse.
Yeah.
What did you learn about communication and working through conflict?
Oh, that was a huge one. The time that I left California and moved back to spend time with my family. Another huge reason was because dealing with postpartum and a new baby, you're not getting a lot of sleep in the house and things are really chaotic. And I think that's pretty typical for new parents. But I think our lack of ability to approach conflicts in a way that was going to help us build a better relationship was the thing that was destroying our relationship. So during that time that I moved over here, we also took it as a break and separated for a little bit. And eventually we realized that it was just the built-up tension that caused that separation. But when you don't know how to resolve conflicts still come up. No matter if the tension from that's been released, we would still have conflicts come up. So I realized that if I do want this marriage to work, which I do, that's something I have to learn. And I think the main thing I took out of that coaching session was that the conflicts are going to come up, and instead of me viewing them as an attack on myself and an argument and a fight, I started viewing them as ways for my husband and I to synergize and become just one in this relationship. Now, when we have these conflicts, of course, I still get mad and it's still tense, but it doesn't escalate nearly as far as it used to. It doesn't take as much energy out of either one of us as it used to, because now we're not fighting against each other. We're just viewing it as an opportunity to get to the relationship that we want.
Wow, that's amazing. So I think what's really important to highlight here is that when we're in a relationship and things aren't going the way that we want, it's default for most of us, most of the time, to say, well, they're doing this wrong and they need to change this. And I just wish that they would do this differently. And we blame the other person. When we actually start to do the work ourselves, though, and we take our own power back and we start to take responsibility and we start to hold ourselves accountable and we start to really take the conflict as an opportunity for growth, we are able to show up differently in that relationship. And because we are showing up differently, we're giving the other person an opportunity to respond differently. So I don't know if your husband was doing any of his own work at the time or anything like that, but can you talk to us a little bit about just how you putting the time, energy, and resources into doing the work on yourself helped the relationship and the unit that is you and your husband?
I think that us having a family, I noticed that my energy will a lot of times set the tone for their energy too when we're in the house. And so now that I've learned these things, and especially about conflict, it just really helps keep the energy a lot more peaceful in the house, which is what was really important to me.
And what did you notice when you went back to your husband and started talking about things with some of these new tools? How was he able to show up for you?
I think he was learning too, because I would tell him like, oh, I had my session today. This is what I learned. Share these different perspectives with him. And I think that's both applying them. It made a big difference.
Oh, that's amazing that he was open to that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So one other thing I would really love to talk to you about, I guess it has to do with the spiritual connection, slice of the pie in the wheel of life, let's say. We spent a lot of time talking about that level 6 energy, that unconditional love, right? That flow state, that connection to everyone and everything around us. Can you tell us about your experience learning how to tap into unconditional love and what that has done for yourself and for your relationships?
Being able to tap into that source of unconditional love, it helps me to care for the people that I love a lot more, because the love isn't coming from a place of, do you deserve this? What do you like? How much are you loving me? It's coming from a place of, I have this love inside of me for you, and I'm gonna give it to you.
Yeah, I remember one of the really beautiful insights you had on that topic was, the more that I share love, the more I will receive it, and the more I hold back from giving love, the more I hold myself back from receiving it. What do you think of that today?
I always think about that actually when my husband and I have conflicts and the times where I'm being extra stubborn. The fight's over, but maybe I'm still mad. And then I think about that. Do I really want to go through the rest of this day feeling bitter, or could I put out a little bit of love and see what happens? And every time that makes the day so much better. And the same with like my relationships with my family too. Since I spent like a huge part of my childhood growing up with my grandma, and now I'm watching her get older, I feel like I want to really appreciate the time that I spend with her. Sourcing this love for her from that place too, it makes me feel like that I'm just not going to regret the time that I spent with her.
Beautiful. What would you say is the biggest takeaway for you around your energy?
I think I remember our last session coaching, and I was feeling a little worried about I was really happy about the growth that I'd experienced, and I was a little worried that, oh, what if I'd start to lose touch with myself again, or what if I can't continue growing? And we talked about having the ability to always ground yourself and check in, and so that's been my biggest takeaway with my energy, is that no matter where I am or what's going on, it doesn't matter. I have this ability to ground myself now and come into my own energy, and because I've done this work that has helped me be more authentic and more genuine and less judgmental of myself, my energy feels more comfortable to be in. So I really like spending this time with myself, and it actually enhances my life a lot, because when I have this ability now to ground myself in who I am, less things have the impact on me.
Yeah, that's foundational. Beautiful. So it's been about 9 months or so since we wrapped up. How has life been? Like, what's been going on? Tell us how things have been unfolding for you. Have you been able to continue learning and growing?
Yeah, for sure. I read books and watch videos and journal and do that type of stuff. I've definitely continued my journey. During that time, my husband and I moved back in together. Xavier turned 2. He just actually started going to daycare, and I started going back to work. So that was a pretty big transition, that all of this work, it really helped me get through.
Amazing. Yeah, we didn't even get to touch on the career stuff that we worked on and the life path stuff that we worked on. What do you have going on that you're like really excited about right now? What's really lighting you up and alive for you?
I guess that it's like springtime, and that's been like the highlight of my life right now. I'm really excited to start spending more time outside and just enjoying my life.
So what would you say to people listening who are considering starting life coaching as a complement to being on this path of medicine, psychedelics, consciousness expansion? What would you say to them?
I would say that if you feel drawn to it in any way, to don't even second guess yourself, just go for it, because the things that you're gonna get out of it are just so valuable. They're things that are gonna help you for the rest of your life, and they're things that nobody can ever take away from you, and they're things that you can continue to build and grow on. And yeah, so if you're interested in it, I say go for it.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it, right? It's like building blocks, foundational building blocks for how to experience the world and how to experience life and be yourself in the world. Beautifully said. I didn't realize you're only 25 years old, which is amazing that you're doing this type of work at what I perceive to be so young. How do you feel that this experience and just all the work that you're doing at such a young age is setting you up for the future?
Yeah, I feel so happy to be able to do this type of work at this age, so that I can start building my life really intentionally. And I feel like it really did help me set a foundation at such a young age that I'm able to now build off of and create this life that I feel fulfilled by, and I feel happy to wake up to every day and just excited to live. And I feel really grateful to get that at such a young age, because I know that this time can be really challenging for a lot of people, because it's like another turning point. Like turning 25, you feel like you're entering another quarter of your life, and you're not really like a teenager anymore. You're not that young of an adult. You're starting to enter your real adulthood. So to be able to have these new perspectives moving forward probably changed the trajectory of my life in a lot of ways.
Yeah, beautifully said. It's an amazing opportunity to do it at such a young age. When I was 25, I was definitely just going around and getting drunk. So it's amazing that you're doing this. Is there any way that people can find you or get in touch with you, or do you prefer to keep a low profile?
Yeah, I'm looking for new friends. So my Instagram is Nadya, NADYA_faith. So Nadya_faith.
I'll link that for people in the show notes. Any last words of wisdom or anything that you want to share before we let you go today?
I'm just really grateful for the experience to be here and share my experience with everybody who's listening. And yeah, I hope that some of the things that I shared maybe resonate with other people who are out there listening.
Perfect. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us today. And yeah, just be vulnerable and open. Obviously, coaching conversations are confidential and private, and only you and I are aware of what happens in them. So you being willing to share in this way is just so useful to help people understand what this modality can really do and how it can help to improve our lives. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Well, there you have it, everyone. I hope you enjoy this episode with Nadya. Wow. She has so much wisdom to share. I absolutely loved editing and re-listening to this episode and being reminded of some of these truths that she spoke about. If anyone out there is listening and feeling inspired to hop into my coaching container and experiencing the same depth and level of transformation that Nadya herself has been able to accomplish, please get in touch with me. You can go to modernpsychedelics.net/apply to apply for my coaching program, and you can read more about the program on my website at modernpsychedelics.net/coaching. And I want you to know that no matter where you're at or who you are or what your circumstances are, that a level of transformation that just sets you free from the judgments and fears that are holding you back in life is absolutely possible. And if we want to start building the life that we really want to live and that is going to get us excited to wake up in the morning, it's absolutely crucial to do this work. So go to modernpsychedelics.net/apply to get started on your own journey of transformation in my life coaching program. All right, sending you lots of love. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to and supporting the show. To stay in touch, sign up for my mailing list, which can be found in the show notes or on modernpsychedelics.net. If this episode sparked something within, please let me know by leaving a review of the Modern Psychedelics podcast on Apple and Spotify. This really helps to share these messages with those who need them, which is the whole reason why I do what I do. And if you haven't already, come join the ongoing conversation over on Instagram with other beautiful souls. We have an incredible and conscious community over at the handle Modern Psychedelics. And don't forget that the work begins after you come back down to earth. And I'm standing shoulder to shoulder, doing it with you. This episode is produced in collaboration with Film with Integrity. They are a values-forward production studio providing end-to-end production from concept to content. They do event video, documentary series, commercial and marketing videos, and of course, podcast production. If you are working on a project that deserves quality of production and content without sacrificing heart and soul, visit filmwithintegrity.com to check out their beautiful work and get in touch with their team.